Napoleon Bonaparte, the rise and fall of an empire. He was a man born on a small island who dreamed of conquering the world, a name that still echoes through history, Napoleon Bonaparte. To some, he was a hero who brought order, vision, and progress to a broken nation. To others, he was a tyrant who traded freedom for glory. This is the story of the rise and the fall of one of history's most fascinating leaders. Napoleon was born on August 15, 1769, on the island of Corsica, just months after it became part of France. He wasn't born into royalty or power. His family was modest but proud. From a young age, Napoleon showed incredible discipline, intelligence, and ambition. He was sent to France for his education, where he stood out as a brilliant student of mathematics, history, and, most of all, military strategy. By the time he became an officer, Europe was in turmoil. The French Revolution had torn the nation apart, and the old monarchy had fallen. Chaos had replaced order, but for Napoleon, chaos was the perfect battlefield for opportunity. In his early 20s, Napoleon gained attention for his brilliant tactics during the siege of Toulon, and later his victories in Italy. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a strategist, fast, fearless, and unpredictable. His victories made him a national hero. In a few short years, the young Corsican had become the most famous general in France, and soon fame turned into power. In 1799, Napoleon staged a coup d'etat, overthrowing the weak French government and declaring himself first consul. Within 5 years, he would crown himself Emperor of the French, not by divine right, but by the will of his people. As emperor, Napoleon reshaped France and much of Europe. He introduced new laws known as the Napoleonic Code, which brought equality before the law, education reforms, and modern administration. He built roads, schools, and institutions that would last long after his reign. He dreamed of a Europe united under French leadership, efficient, rational, and modern. But behind his vision was an unstoppable hunger for power. Napoleon led his armies across the continent, defeating coalitions of Europe's greatest powers. From Austria to Prussia, from Italy to Spain, one nation after another fell before his genius. The Battle of Austerlitz in 1805 became his masterpiece, a victory so perfect that even his enemies admired his brilliance. But power invites enemies, and even the greatest empire has limits. In 1812, Napoleon made a fateful decision to invade Russia. It was a campaign that would change everything. His grand army, over 600,000 strong, marched into Russia, confident of victory. But the Russians retreated, burning everything behind them. When winter came, Napoleon's army faced starvation, freezing temperatures, and endless suffering. By the time he retreated, only a fraction of his men remained. The man who had conquered Europe was now running from defeat. From that moment, the tides turned. One by one, his enemies united. In 1814, Paris was captured, and Napoleon was forced to abdicate, exiled to the island of Elba. But the story didn't end there. The world thought it had seen the last of him. They were wrong. In 1815, Napoleon escaped from Elba, returned to France, and in a moment of pure legend, regained his throne without firing a single shot. Soldiers sent to arrest him instead joined him, shouting, "Vive l'Empereur!" His comeback lasted only 100 days. At the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon faced the combined forces of Britain and Prussia. Despite his brilliance, fate had turned against him. On June 18, 1815, his army was defeated once and for all. Captured by the British, Napoleon was sent into exile again, this time to the remote island of St. Helena, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. There, he spent his final years writing, reflecting, and dreaming of the empire he once ruled. On May 5, 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died, far from the glory of Paris but still believing in his destiny. Even in death, his legacy refused to fade. He changed not just maps but minds, inspiring generations of leaders, thinkers, and revolutionaries. Napoleon's story is one of unstoppable ambition, of genius and pride, victory and downfall. He rose from an island nobody cared about to command all of Europe. And though his empire fell, his name, Napoleon Bonaparte, will forever stand as a symbol of power, vision, and the unbreakable will of a man who dared to dream of ruling the world.